Buenos días, bienvenidos a todos. Good afternoon and welcome to all. And of course, my name is Jim Baca, and along with Maria Montes Skolnick and Stephen Ernest, I am one of the co-founders of Voces de Santa Fe. And we have been telling our history in our own voices since 2010. And next month will be our 11th anniversary. We have about 2,000 members worldwide, almost all of which have ties back to Santa Fe and New Mexico in general. We have Ron, who's in Cuenca, Ecuador. We have members in Japan, Scotland, Canada, and I know I've missed a few, but and all over the United States, of course. But over the last several years, we've been hosting events that feature noted guest speakers, which we will continue to do today. Today, we're proud to host a couple of speakers that will be introduced shortly. And our topic today will be a tradition that has fascinated Santa Fe for almost 100 years. 100 years, what, 2024, 2025? Somewhere in there?
2024.
2024, so just a few years away. But before we introduce our speakers, James, can you jump in and just maybe answer any questions that anybody might have about the mechanics of the meeting or anything in general about Zoom? I think everybody online here is pretty savvy.
Yeah, I'm guessing everybody here knows how it all works, but just in case, I guess I will. Let's see. Hold on here, just a second. Oops. That didn't work. Well, all right. So, anyways, if there is anybody that is not familiar with Zoom, on the bottom left, you got your two main components that you'll probably use, and that's mute and stop video. Once we get going, we're going to probably end up muting everybody, but I think everybody on here knows how to work that, so it shouldn't be a big issue. Then I would also say on the top right-hand corner, and if you don't see any options, if you just scroll over, options will appear. You'll see a view button up on the top right, and that just gives you an option of how you're going to view it, specifically when, say, I think Luke's the only one that's going to take over the screen. It'll change your view, but you can still change the view while the screen is being shared. Just FYI, if you want to look at another option. If you need anything, chat me. You can directly chat, or you can send it out to everybody. So I don't know, Dad, if there's anything else I really need to discuss. I have a feeling everybody knows Zoom pretty well. Anybody not, let me know.
Cool, thanks. So Stephen.
Hey.
Can you say a few words and then hand it over to
No,
Mike?
I mean, you know, I'm so sorry that I'm not in Santa Fe, you know, to be with everybody. You know, I miss you all like severely, but I'm glad to be here with the zooming along. You know, it's kind of like the nature of the business that we're in. Yeah. But welcome everybody, and thank you to Ray and to Luke for offering to jump in and do this for us. It's a welcome gift, I'll tell you for sure. So everybody sit back and maybe you'll learn something even. I know I will. So let's go forward. Going forward.
Maria?
Yes, hi. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to be introducing Ray Sandoval. It's my pleasure to do so. And I'm going to read my statement because I wanted to get the details right on this amazing person. Founded in 2010, the mission of Voces de Santa Fe, Voces of New Mexico has been to honor our heritage, traditions, and culture. Today, our Voces Oral History Project is happy to have two guests who will describe one of our enduring local traditions, the Burning of Zozobra, created in the 1920s by artist Will Schuster. Schuster is from the legendary artist collective known as Los Cinco Pintores. Their stated goal was to take art to the people, such as schools, hospitals, and places of work. This spirit would leave a lasting influence in the Santa Fe art scene, and Ray Sandoval has been the person to carry it forth. A native Santa Fean, Ray has been helping with the building and burning of Zozobra since childhood. This has given him the perspective to understand both its significance to the art community and its place in Santa Fe history, as well as the community at large, whose long-held traditions are heartfelt and part of our collective experience. In 2010, the Santa Fe Kiwanis Club appointed Ray event chair of this historic Santa Fe tradition, and he has been unanimously reappointed to the position every year since. Ray is actively involved in all aspects of Zozobra, including history, construction, sponsorships, marketing, and promotion. He presents the history of Zozobra annually to schools and museums throughout New Mexico, and his dedication and membership have inspired participation by countless, I should have said mentorship, have inspired participation by countless Santa Feans, both young and young at heart. Ray's concern for keeping the event fresh led him to create the Zozobra Decades Project, a 10-year design journey through the successive decades of Zozobra's existence, leading to a gala 100th anniversary to be held in 2024. Thank you, Ray, for being with us.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to chat with you guys and hopefully tell you a couple things that you never knew about Zozobra. So hopefully you'll learn something, and I'll probably learn something from you guys as well. So this is extremely exciting. And can I just say, I just love the birthday things that you guys do. I mean, just the pictures and stuff. You guys are just an amazing group. And so thank you so much for the work that you do and keeping our history and our voices out there. So thank you, Jim. Thank you, Maria. Thank you.
Yeah, the birthday cards are Maria, 100% Maria.
Amazing, just amazing. Love it.
I'm the mom of the group, and I love all my children.
Well, we love you back, Mom. So, Jim, you want us to just go through, or how do you want to start?
Yeah, what I was thinking is maybe a brief history of Zozobra and talk about some of the community involvements that Kiwanis has.
Sure.
And then Luke can take over with his slideshow.
You got it. So I'm gonna do two things. I'm gonna start out with the origin story, and then I want to talk about the mythology, because I think both stories don't get told enough, and I know that even native Santa Feans who've been going to Zozobra for generations didn't know those two stories. So let me start out. And oh, look at that! That's awesome, Kevin. I love it. And the bobblehead, Maria, it's awesome. You guys are amazing. I have a Zozobra over my shoulder too. So that guy seems to follow me everywhere. So oh, Jim, that's awesome. Love the t-shirt. So here's kind of the story. As you guys know, Will Schuster was part of the Cinco Pentores. They lived in a house on Camino Monte del Sol. They were called Five Nuts in a Hut, right? People thought they were kind of crazy. And what they would do is, John Sloan really kind of mentored them and taught them how to be, Renaissance men, how to do painting and sculpturing, and invent things and just, do things that would really bring out their creativity. And they would share each other's luck, as Schuster would put it in his diary. And what that meant is that one of them would sell a painting or a sculpture, and then they would share the money to get them through till the next person sold something. Well, on Christmas Eve of 1923, Schuster sells a painting, and he goes to his compatriots and he says, hey, let's, I know we've tried to be frugal and we try to make this last a couple of weeks, but it's Christmas Eve, the heck with it. Let's go down to La Fonda, let's have Christmas Eve dinner, and let's have some tequila, right? And so everybody decides, hey, that's a great idea. So they go down to La Fonda and they're having tequila and they're eating, and everyone's just kind of in a really bad mood, and Schuster's kind of upset because he's now, paying for this entire thing on a painting that he's worked on for months, and everybody's just, they're not talking to each other. They're, the conversation's horrible. And so he takes out this notepad where he would do sketches on, and he demands that he tears off pieces and hands it to each of them, and he demands that they write down what's bothering them. And so they do that, and of course he waits till the bartender goes in the back, he puts them on the table, he takes the candle from the table, he lights them on fire. Of course, they'll get kicked out on their butts into the plaza because you can't start a fire on the middle of La Fonda on a table. So now they're in the plaza, snowing, they're laughing, and Schuster thought, God, this is a really great great idea, which is that you write down what's bothering you and you burn it, right? So that's Christmas of 23. So for Good Friday of 24, he decides to take a journey with one of his friends down to Mexico, and they go to a city in which they build an effigy of Judas. And so they parade this effigy of Judas all around on Good Friday, and people will throw their shoes at it, they'll spit at it, and it lands up at the end, it lands up in the plaza, and then they burn it, and everybody has a better Good Friday. So Schuster actually married these two ideas, right? Which is this concept of taking a figure that everyone agrees they don't like. And what he wanted to be very careful of is to make sure that it wasn't a religious figure and it wasn't a political figure, it was something else. And so this idea that the community could write down its gloom and symbolically burn it away is really what happens with Zozobra. So now he's got this concept for this monster. So he goes to the Fiesta Council, who's been celebrating fiestas for almost 200 years at the time, and says, hey, I'd like to add this burning effigy to your event. Well, he got the same reaction that he got Christmas Eve. They threw him out on his stuff too, right? So not to be deterred, Schuster decides, well, they don't want to do it, so we'll continue to do this. And so he comes up with Pasatiempo, which is held the weekend before fiestas, and they decide they would build a Zozobra and burn it. They decided that they would dress up their animals, not just dogs and cats, but pigs and goats, like members of the Fiesta Council, and parade them through the plaza in protest, and then have a hysterical parade to make fun of all the proclamations and everything that Fiesta had done, right? Well, in any other community, that probably would have ended pretty quick, right? You're now you're poking fun at a 200-year-old tradition. But of course, Santa Fe being Santa Fe, Fiesta Council came back and said, you know, your events are pretty popular with everybody, and we've really been only focused on really Hispanic Catholics in terms of celebrating fiestas. And this shotgun wedding that I like to talk about happened where fiestas and Zozobra and the pet parade and the hysterical parade meld into an amazing combination that really allows everyone in the community, despite their religious or their ethnicity, can participate in our city's kind of history. And so I like to remind people of that because I think it's a beautiful story. In so many other communities, people would have been offended and it never would have happened again. And rather than that happening, you see that the two join forces and actually become better off than the two were separately. So I just think that that's magical, and it speaks to the type of people that we are here in Santa Fe. And I think that's a proud legacy that we can all be proud of. So now I want to tell you a little bit about the mythology, because this really comes in and I find that a lot of people don't know this, and we really want to get this story out because it's really beautiful, right? So the idea that Schuster came up with is that throughout the year, we create gloom or negative energy. When we let ourselves down, when we let each other down, when we lie to each other, when we act selfish, we do all this stuff that puts out this negative energy. And so what happens is that this negative energy keeps accumulating until it forms into a specter, who is Zozobra, right? And so everybody says dress because they're kind of lazy, but it really is not a dress, it's a ghost tail. It's if you think back to Casper, the friendly ghost, and you see he doesn't have any feet, he has this little wisp that comes through. Zozobra's not in a dress, he has a ghost tail. He is a specter. He's created from all this negative energy that we put out. So, by July, sheep are missing, all these shenanigans are happening. And so, the city founders say, hey, we know that Zozobra's out there, he's causing all this mischief. How do we get Zozobra out of hiding so we can arrest him or do him in or whatever they're going to do to him? And how's that going to happen? And so what they decide to do is issues Zozobra an invitation to Santa Fe's largest party, which is Fiestas, right? Now, there's some subterfuge going on both sides. So they're inviting him because they want to get him out of hiding, and Zozobra is accepting because he has a huge ego, right? That's part of being the big guy. But he also is saying, this is my opportunity. I'm going to be in the middle of downtown Santa Fe, and now I can wreak havoc on everything. And Zozobra accepts. And so that's why Zozobra shows up in a bow tie, in his little tuxedo, because he is the special guest at this party, quote unquote, thrown in his honor. So he shows up on the hill, Santa Feans gather, you know, the city fathers are like, oop, we really calculated this. We don't really know how we would arrest him or do him in or any of these things. And so they're trying to figure this out. And as it gets darker, Zozobra is able to use his gloom powers to throw everyone into the dark, right? And then what he does is he then takes Santa Fe's children away from their parents, and he devoids them of any happiness or any hope, any of those things. And so they become zombie-like, if you will. And those gloomies are now his minions, and he's going to use them to take over the city of Santa Fe. And so that's why we have the glooms descend and come back to the city. Well, the only thing that the city folks come up with is something they pulled out of Frankenstein, which is, we'll light some fires and get some torches and maybe that'll work. Well, it works to a certain extent because the young kids see the torches and it kind of wakes them from this you know, hypnotism that Zozobra has put them in. And so they realize what they're doing. And so they take off these sheets and they run back to their parents. Well, this just infuriates Zozobra even more. And so he gets angry and he's able then to actually push the torchbearers away, and the torchbearers get scared. And so they run away. And here's where the beauty of this story is. Okay. Now what you have is you have the evil specter that's created by all of our bad deeds. He's going to win out. He's going to take over Santa Fe. And just when you think that there's no hope left, the city guys have been scared away, what happens is that as humans, we create one more mythical creature, and that's the fire spirit. And that fire spirit is created when we're selfless, when we're good to one another, when we do good deeds. And so that energy accumulates as well and comes and forms in the form of the fire spirit, who's Zozobra's mortal enemy. And so as they kind of do this dance between one another, now what we see is this David and Goliath situation. And ultimately, our goodness wins out over our gloom, over our despair. And we're able to vanquish Zozobra for another year. And so I wanted to share that with you because there's a lot of folks have no idea, why does he show up in a bow tie? What are the gloomies? What's the significance of the torches? How does the fire spirit fit in this? And it's a beautiful tale of good versus evil. And it's something that I think that we as a people, and the reason Zozobra is so important to me, especially now in our 24 hours Facebook, TikTok society, is that we rarely take an opportunity to think about the gloom that we're putting out in the world. What are we doing in our own lives where we're making ourselves gloomy? What are we doing in our own? And I like gloom, right? Because I really think that human beings they're not evil. Most of us are good people, but we still mess up sometimes. And we put that gloom out into the ecos. And really, we need to think about what we're doing that causes ourselves gloom and causes other people gloom. And Zozobra gives us that opportunity to just take a moment, hit the pause button, and reflect about that, put it down, make him our community sacrifice, ignite it, celebrate together, and hopefully we're better people and we live in and we translate that into a better world.
Excellent. I love it. Thank you, Ray. Did you want to talk just a moment about Kiwanis and
Sure.
What they return to the community?
Absolutely. Yes, I would be totally remiss. So in 1963, Schuster suffered a heart attack and he understood that he was not going to be able to continue Zozobra again. And one of the things is that Harold Gans, the longtime Voices of Zozobra, who owned the Gans building downtown, many of you may remember, was a member of the Kiwanis Club. And he actually approached Schuster and said, I don't think you should leave this to the Fiesta Council. I think you should leave it to Kiwanis. And Schuster kind of looked at him and was like, well, that's weird. It would probably be best done by the Fiesta Council. And Harold really convinced Schuster that the good that could come out of Zozobra from selling tickets and selling glooms, they sold gloom dolls back then, could actually be put into the community for the youth of Santa Fe. And at that moment, Schuster was sold on the idea that Kiwanis, rather than the Fiesta Council, should take over. So the Kiwanis Club of Santa Fe had already been around. It started in 1921. We celebrated our 100th anniversary this year. A lot of people don't know that Kiwanis bought the benches on the plaza. Kiwanis took 50-gallon drums and had people donate pennies to build Salvador Perez Pool. Kiwanis started pancakes on the plaza and decided that with Zozobra, it was just a little bit too much, and so decided to give that to Rotary. So Rotary could have a way of doing something charitable, and that Kiwanis would have Zozobra. And so since 1964, we've been able to give $1.9 million back to our youth nonprofits in our community that support our kids off of the net proceeds of Zozobra. And I will tell you, as you guys know this, last year was very difficult, but Zozobra continued, right? And because our traditions have to mean something. You don't have a tradition and it says, you're going to do this tradition when times are great. You're going to do this tradition when it's easy to do. Our traditions require the dedication to carry them out under almost any circumstances. Now, you got to be safe, but I'm very, very proud that our club was able to pull off one of the only large events, still bring it to our entire community, burn our gloom in a year we needed to get rid of it, and we had no transmission of COVID in 2020. And by selling glooms online, we sold over 150,000 glooms from all 50 states and 14 countries. And we were able to pay off all our bills from last year and still provide $40,000 to nonprofits last year. And so that was a huge, huge success for us.
Excellent.
So, good, yeah.
Excellent. And contributions can be made online, can't they, Ray? For people that are not actually going to attend the burning, they can still go online and make contributions and buy merchandise as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would encourage, I don't know if you guys saw the announcement this week. We decided it was prudent to limit the Zozobra crowd for this year to 10,000. There's a lot of people who are like, well, 10,000 is still a lot of people. The reason we were able to do that, number one, I want to say a huge shout out to PNM and Avangrid,
yes,
who gave us $100,000 in cash to help pay our bills. This year was very, very difficult. At the beginning of July, it looked like the vaccines were working, cases were down. So when we started planning for a 60,000 person event, we went to our vendors and they had been hurting so much from the pandemic that in order to secure those contracts, we had to pay a 75% deposit. So as this situation kind of deteriorated, we were in a really bad problem where we had spent a lot of money for a big party, and we all knew that it would be irresponsible to have 60,000 folks. So the contribution from PNM and Avangrid helped us pay our bills, but we would still like to be able to do two things, and that is, number one, have a safe event, and then number two, provide for the kids of this community. So there's still about 3,000 tickets left. We're requiring proof of vaccination or proof of a negative test. We feel like we have very good safe COVID practices for those 10,000 people. Again, the amount of land that we have with the baseball diamond and Majors Fields allows people at 10,000 to still socially distance. So that's one of the reasons that we did that. But the contribution is only going to allow us to break even. So if folks are going to watch it on Channel 7, which we're providing for free, or even our expatriates, if you're going to be watching it on KOAT.com, we're really asking if you would go to our website. There's a ticket called I'm Not Coming, but I Want to Pitch In, the $15 ticket, or you can make a donation in any amount, or you can submit a gloom for $1, or you can upgrade and send in those divorce papers or that picture of your ex or your speeding ticket, or any of those things, and you can actually pick where you want it on Zozobra. We'll put it in his head for you, his elbow. One of my favorite places is we have a place that says where Zozobra's heart should be, because we all know he doesn't have a heart. So so that's a little bit. But yes, if folks can help us because again, our mission is twofold. One is to uphold and carry on this amazing, unique tradition that we have. But the second is to really provide something back to our kids. And that's the reason why we volunteer hundreds of hours every year to bring this, is to do those two things, live up to our traditions and help our kids.
Thank you, Ray. And by the way, we posted a link to that contribution website on our Voces de Santa Fe group. So that made it available to all of our members. So next up, we have Mr. Luke Tompson, who is going to present a slideshow. Is that what you got, Luke? With
yeah.
Cool pictures that kind of gives us an insight into the creation
Absolutely.
of Zozobra. And before you get started there,
Okay.
I just want to say congratulations, Luke, on your new job as marketing director of the University of New Mexico Spirit. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, Luke.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey,
Well,
Luke and Jim, if you don't mind, I'd just like to interrupt for just 1 second. I want to say something as well. We first saw Luke as a gloomy, then we saw him win our art contest. And I have to tell you that I could not be more pleased that, if Luke is any indication of this younger generation, then we're in great shape. This is a young man that dedicates himself. He helps me with, when we're at minus 20 degrees on the top of La Fonda getting ready to do New Year's Eve, there's Luke running and getting me a tool I need. If we're at 4th of July and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and we're moving out traffic signs, Luke's there with me moving those traffic signs and helping me get that done. And I cannot tell you the immense value that he's brought to us, the dedication, the work ethic, the selflessness that this young man does. So Zozobra is in really great hands.
Yay. All right.
You're gonna make me cry, man.
Here.
All right. Well, thank you all for the kind words. So I'm gonna be talking to you all a little bit about how Zozobra actually comes together. I mean, Ray gave you a little bit of the history and mythology around it. So here's how the event actually goes down. There we go. All right. So what is my role in Kiwanis? I mean, Ray just talked a little bit about it. I do anything that they ask me. I'll go get tools. It seems like I get a new task every single year, every single minute. So it really has just been learning how to run a massive event on this sort of scale. And I just started by stuffing Zozobra, when I was a kid. Had people from Kiwanis come visit my school, tell me about, this big giant thing that we were going to burn. And I was all in. I mean, fire and a show. I mean, that's exactly what I'd always want. So, and then I won the 2013 kids poster contest, which was the first year that Ray was actually the leader of the event. So from there, it really just took off. Jacob, Ray, and Matt just took me in. They said, how would you like to help us burn Zozobra? And I was stoked to have them ask me to do that. I mean, I'd never really imagined myself being ever in this position, let alone like getting to be part of the event in any way. So I'm now in my 6th year of building Zozobra and 7th Zozobra built. Yeah, there's the poster.
And it's signed, is it not, Stephen?
Yes, it is.
All right.
It's gonna be part of my retirement when I sell out.
All right. So the anatomy of Zozobra, most of it consists of wooden chicken wires. Many of you all know. We stuff the paper strips into the chicken wire and sort of gives them the bulk. We use a lot of different boards. Zozobra is really he's gone through a sort of evolution of reinforcements, everything like that. Engineering, we've had a lot of wind and rain these past years as well. And so with these renovations becomes more weight. And so really it's just been a constant sort of thinking outside of the box. How do we take a 50-foot puppet, reinforce it, and then also make it so that it's wind, rain, everything proof? So that's been a challenge. But Schuster's innovation of making a well-rounded face and a human-like body was really just, it was something so new. Like Zozobra is just so unique because he's essentially a human-like figure built out of wood and wire, which was really unheard of. And so a lot of the head is strategically built shapes, like trapezoids, everything like that. Ray kind of went over it. Schuster actually had a heart attack, and the original blueprint was lost. So the blueprints that Kiwanis took over with was not the exact Zozobra that people had seen in the past, before the 60s. So there's been a lot of re-innovation and additions that have come to the modern day Zozobra, not only from those like Gus and Harold who took over in the 60s, but also Ray and Jake and Matt. I've seen a ton of them, or ton of just re-innovating, redesigning of the entire skeleton, so that we can create a more accurate Zozobra, as in a closer to Zozobra from what it was. And then, as I mentioned, the reinforcements as well, the bulk to Zozobra, because he didn't used to be 50 feet. So the main skeleton really still is the base of the beast. I mean, he is essentially the same idea, just a little bit of adjustments over time. So what does it take to build Zozobra? Well, it takes quite a bit of rules. There's been a lot of rules that I've learned throughout the years. One is a rule of threes. We always start the times on a time that's divisible by 3. A lot of the boards, like sometimes if we're having to make a measurement, if it's divisible by 3, we say, well, that sounds like the right measurement, so we'll use that. So that's one rule, and there's just a ton of other just little rules that I've learned throughout the years. Carpentry knowledge is also really big, because like the entire, like the wire gives them the shape and everything, but I shouldn't really say the shape, basically the exterior look, but the wood is really where Zozobra is surrounded around. It's how his head sort of looks, this sort of downward, and then I don't even know how to describe that. But then you also have the facial features, like the larger forehead compared to the eye panels, which are inset a little more in. So that takes a lot of innovation. And Jacob, he was a former carpenter as well. So I've learned a ton of stuff from him as well. Where to drill in wood, how to get around certain issues such as knots in the wood. Those are always huge challenges that we face when building him. But using the correct knowledge, we're always able to overcome it. Thinking outside of the box, it's Zozobra also has to look different every single year. If we built the same Zozobra every single year, it would be really boring. So Ray, Jake, and Matt have been faced with this newer challenge as well these past years of replicating the original Zozobras, such as in 2014 when he had the potbelly, and just everything when his hands were tied behind him. So it really takes not only thinking outside of the box for the design of Zozobra, but also for the show. How do we make this an engaging show that everyone's going to want to come out to every single year? And so that's another challenge. That's one of the tasks that daunt me the most. Ray, he just seems to come up with these amazing show ideas every single year. So I'm starting to learn that a little bit as well, trying to learn how do I make the most creative show possible for such a large scale event. And then knowledge of how to manipulate the materials like the chicken wire is also really hard. So Scott Wiseman, he's our hand designer. And if you look to the right on the image there, you see that you have the hand there, and it's scary how well Scott can replicate hands. I mean, it goes in, he's able to paint it really well. So he's probably one of the masters of how to manipulate the chicken wire. But then on the face as well, you know, how we build the eyebrows. That's really hard as well, because we have to essentially create another layer and then attach it so that if Zozobra, or when Zozobra is burning, the eyebrows don't just fall off or anything like that. So, and then fighting the chicken wire. I mean, we have something called in Kiwanis called a Zozobra bites, where, I mean, you just get like a ton of scrapes down your arm. I don't have any because I haven't been able to help out recently, but I'm sure Ray has a bunch right now. So that's another rule. Just never fight the chicken wire. It has a mind of its own.
And it always wins.
Yeah. So for the morning of the burn, which is, it might be one of my favorite parts, or it probably is my favorite part. You know, it's a really early morning. I never ever get up that early, and normally I'm very tired if I wake up anytime before 7. And just that day, I'm just immediately ready to go. I get up and I already feel the recharge, but I know it's going to be a long day. We have days that are probably 22 hours. So very, very long day. So the way we get the head and the body on the tow trucks, you can kind of see, let me see if I can, I was going to try and use a laser pointer. So we have to, we face the task of getting the head and the body on tow trucks. Now, I mean, you wouldn't think that's too hard of a task. You just kind of lift it up. No, with all of these new reinforcements, with how big he is, how much everything just weighs, it is a very hard task. And not only that, but we also have to make sure that the nose doesn't touch anything, that the eyebrows don't touch anything. And then we also have the added task of not getting the white cloth dirty, because I mean, it's white, so very hard. You can't necessarily drag it either. So we have a ton of helpers. A lot of times we have help from the city of Santa Fe workers from parks. They are able to help us lift it up. But even for them, it is very hard to lift up the head onto the truck. As for the body, I didn't have a picture of it, but basically what we do, you have this long skirt. So, and obviously you can't fit the entire Zozobra on the truck with the skirt extended as well. So what we have to do is roll up the skirt into sort of a croissant. And so we're able to fit him on the truck there. And as you can see in the bottom right picture, his chest kind of comes in. So we're able to kind of fold him up a little bit, but not too much. But the chest does come in. So we really have to try and compact him. The top two pictures and the picture on the bottom left, that's us arriving to the park with the head. We get there an hour or two before the body arrives so that we can start prepping it with stuff such as putting the fireworks inside of the head. You see Ray there in the bottom left, painting the hair. That is not done. I don't even know the hair color until the morning of, until he takes out the can and says, this is the color that his hair is going to be. So after his head is prepared, we also have to attach the ears. You can kind of see there. He does not have ears in the three pictures. Those also have to come off so that they don't blow off. So it's just a lot of putting him together. So then we have to merge the head and the body together, because the way that Zozobra is set up, if I go back a few slides here, this part right here, the stem kind of sits on the body. The body it is pulled up, and the head is supported by the body. So we have to basically take Zozobra together and attach him so that the head won't disconnect, anything won't disconnect. So we have to have, you can see everyone on the bottom right there at the head, we have to lift it up and attach the head and the brain stem into the body so that it's nice and secure, so that when the crane is taking him up, there are no issues. And then you can also see right under the top of his right shoulder there's a step there, and it's always the hardest thing to get him up of that step. It seems like just a little step, but you really have to hold this huge puppet up in the air. So that's also a really hard task. So during the day, after the crane has lifted him, Ray, Matt, and Jacob go down the steps and they turn around, and it's one of my favorite parts to see their reaction. You could see it in the top right picture there. That's Jacob giving Tio Coco a little piece there. So immediately once that's over, they say, okay, straight to work, let's go. So Jake and Matt go up on the crane, and you can see that on the bottom right picture there. They really have to secure Zozobra's head, the body, and then also get the arms not chained up, roped up, so that he's able to be controlled. So that's really an all-day process. That generally goes until 4 or 5 in the afternoon. It's always really hot now, especially these recent 2 years. So I don't know how they do it, but they're up there all day. Sometimes I'm just chilling down there on the bottom waiting for my next task. But I wouldn't say that it's a light task during the day. I'm still constantly walking and fetching stuff for them. Last year, I did 32,000 steps and 45 flights of stairs. So
Wow.
throughout the day, once it's the end of the day, I am very ready to go home. And I mean, you can't really get away without a shower because you have all this ash and just dirt on you. But after that, it's just lights out to bed. You do need breaks throughout the day, though, because it does get really hot. It's a long morning as well, since we start at 4 in the morning or whatever. So that's it. You just got to kind of pace yourself. But then again, you are also putting on this huge event for this huge puppet. So yeah. And then the burn, the actual event, once conditions are acceptable, so that's pending super fast wind or bad rain. So a lot of times we have to stay in contact with the weather people to see, are we going to be good to burn here, or should we wait another 10 minutes? Are we going to be in the middle of a cell? One of the other parts are we have to go into blackout, which is wearing black clothes, so that during the show, we're not sort of a distraction to the audience, so that we blend in with the dark night and that Zozobra is the main focus. There's also various duties during the show. Ray's is to just make sure everything is going well, and then he gets the best job of them all to light him up. My job is to control the colors of the eyes. So I'm just down. I've been in a few different locations. That bottom left picture there, that's where I was for a couple years. But then I went down the hill so that I could actually see his eyes a little better. There's other jobs such as lighting the Niagara fireworks. That's the job of Jacob and generally another assistant. So once he has been burned, once he's on the ground, excuse me, we go up there and we create and we conduct an autopsy. We see how everything held up even after he's been burned. And we also like to pick out little things. We like to pick out the eyes, the buttons, if they're still not melted. So sometimes stuff gets melted, but sometimes it's also preserved. But we also conduct the autopsy to see, you know, how well did the shoulder joint hold up? Did it crack at all? So that's stuff we like to conduct so that if we do need to make an adjustment for the next year, we have that information as he's burning right in front of us. So then after all of that's been complete, after everyone's kind of cooled down, we have a post-show meal. Sometimes it's steak, sometimes, or generally it is steaks, and just kind of decompress. Everyone's just kind of thankful that it's over, but also sad that it's over because, you know, we'd been working on it for months and months, and here we are just burning down our work again. But that's just all part of the job.
Luke, don't forget to tell them, go back and don't forget to tell them what we do over the carcass after we do the autopsy.
Oh yeah, yeah. We also, you could see some people roasting marshmallows there. It's really hot. I mean, you go up to this and you think, oh, it's just like little fires. It hits you. You can't be on one side, and if it's windy, the smoke is just going in your face. It's a weird smell as well, and I've come to like the smell. I probably shouldn't because it's so toxic, but it's definitely a Zozobra unique smell.
So Luke,
yeah,
Luke, I heard, I don't know if it's a legend or whatnot, but somebody told me that the eyes are typically vinyl record albums.
No, they are generally pizza plates that you put in the oven.
Okay.
So I've seen them. I have a couple at my house, and it's not just the plates. It's quite a bit more. You can't see it at all in those pictures. But there's also a stem that comes out of the eyes. You know, you have the eyes, and then we have something that extends back so that now we're able to give Zozobra a 360 sort of sight. So he can go up, down, left, and right. Whereas before, you know, at one point to move the eyes, he was cross-eyed. So it would go like this, and then they had a wire in the center so that it would go left to right. But now this next generation we have is up, down, left, and right, and it's controlled by just by like a typical remote control, like something you would control a remote helicopter with. So that's pretty cool to see as well. I'm not the one that controls the actual eye movement. That's another job of Scott Wiseman.
Cool.
Yeah. So what have I learned throughout doing this? I mean, I've kept one of Santa Fe's strongest traditions going, and this is one of our most iconic traditions. So I am so thankful to be part of something that is so huge. You know, I never dreamt of ever even being up there. So to do this is just such an amazing opportunity. But we do need more young people like myself to continue the tradition. I definitely cannot do it alone. Ray has a lot of responsibilities, and I generally would only like part of them, but if it comes to it, I'll have to take all of them. But it's also taught me how to lead and not be a boss, and a lot of that's from Ray. You know, a lot of people that lead events, they're so bossy, they just kind of stand around, they're just telling you do this, do that. And if Kiwanis was like that, Zozobra wouldn't be the event it is today. Ray essentially leads us by example. He shows us what to do. He teaches us to be better people. And so for that, I'm also really thankful because I feel like I've taken so many of those skills into the real life. So without that, I don't know where I'd be. I've also become a lot more creative and had to adapt to, thinking outside of the box. A lot of times I've found myself, especially in the past, it'd be like, I can't find this tool, it's gone. It's somewhere. That's just a little bit of laziness. Or there's other ways. There's what is the saying? There's more than a few ways to skim a cat, or so I've definitely learned that there's so many ways to go about so many different things. So learn about that. Perseverance, talked a little bit about that. Not giving up. If we gave up, Zozobra would just not be there. We have to persevere through so many things, the wind, the rain, and that's just showing our love for Zozobra. That shows our commitment. And I believe that our family, our Kiwanis family, if we weren't as patient and did not persevere through so many things, Zozobra would not be what it is today. So thank you so much to my Kiwanis family. You all have really raised me. You have made me the person I am today. And thank you to my grandpa, Jim Baca, for allowing me to speak today. It's really been an honor, and I hope to see you all soon. Hopefully you guys are able to tune in to Zozobra, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Very good. Very
Really
good. Thank you,
well.
Luke and Ray. Thank you very much. This was an amazing presentation. And it's recorded, and the recording will be posted on our Voces Facebook group, so people that didn't get a chance to attend today can watch it at their convenience, because this really was a very informative presentation. Thank you both, Luke and Ray.
Thank you.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you, Ray.
Any comments?
I would like to say I'm just so proud of both of these people, these wonderful Santa Feans that have worked so hard to keep this going. And Ray, I mean, you're just amazing. I'm just amazed by what you do. And it's not just the Zozobra, but the other events that you do through the year. And to have it as a video here on our Voces page, it's going to go on YouTube. So this video can be used again and again by whomever wants to use it as a promotion for the Zozobra event.
Thank you all. Appreciate your attendance here. And any questions or comments? There you go. There's our